I've made the argument that the Clinton Foundation is a slush fund. Now, I've made that argument because when WikiLeaks came out, WikiLeaks kind of laid out the conversations and the money that was exchanging hands in that foundation. And it was a clear indication that it didn't seem where the State Department and like Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton's activities from the standpoint of governance and party politics started and where the foundation ended seemed to be a very dubious line. But what do I know? I'm just a guy sitting in a kitchen doing the news. CFO of the Clinton organization, believing he was speaking to an old acquaintance, has said some pretty damning stuff. In one case, saying, "I know where the bodies are buried." Now, bear with me. This story, I'm going to go through the story quick because I have another one on this that's just more funny after that. Because this one may have actual legal consequences. An organization called MDA Analytics. It's an organization made up of ex-federal prosecutors. And they investigate 501c3 companies with this idea that if there's malfeasance and the IRS essentially agrees that there's malfeasance, if there's some kind of reward, whether people have to pay, they can get a cut of that money. Now, that said, that makes them somewhat motivated in order to find malfeasance, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're doing anything shady and looking in an investigation. And I got to be honest, the information from WikiLeaks in and of itself seemed to be pretty damning on this front. Even Cenk Uygur, I remember him doing an amazing job going through line by line, like step through, one item after the next, on money that's exchanging hands, favors, this kind of quid pro quo relationship. And I would even put to you, just from an evidence standpoint, they've lost like 90% of their revenue. Like their donations have dropped by 90%. If this was just the charity that was out there just doing good around the world, and people were just giving because, they were just caring about all of these good and proper things in the world, and governments like Saudi Arabia and Morocco, these humanitarian governments who are just peaceniks, if that was true, why would they stop giving when she lost the election? I would put to you that it was no longer quid pro quo when the person, I guess, couldn't do the quid. There was no pro quo built into it. You know what I mean? I don't necessarily know if I'm saying that right, but there was no pay for play at that point because she was irrelevant. She lost the reality shows. In this case, though, the interesting part, the CFO of the organization, believing he was speaking to a old acquaintance on business, said stuff like, I know where the bodies are buried, saying Bill Clinton is ungovernable, that Bill Clinton, you can't control Bill Clinton, and he runs up expenses, and I guess other people in the organization runs up expenses, and not just runs up expenses, making this kind of note that there are political issues, not just him, there was other people involved in this, but that there were political issues that ran afoul of the charitable issues, meaning the fact that they had a charity was in conflict of interest with some of the political things that they were doing with that charity. Let's take a look at the story. This is in The Hill, but I'm going to go through Zero Hedge's rendition of this one, and I'll go through this pretty quickly. The CFO of the Clinton Foundation, thinking he was meeting an old professional acquaintance, admitted to investigators that the charity had widespread problems with governance and accountants and conflicts of interest. And Bill Clinton has been commingling business and personal expenses for a long time, The Hill's John Solomon reports. Now, the problem here is that this investigation from the MDA has been handed over to prosecutors in the Justice Department and in the FBI in Little Rock, Arkansas. So this may have consequences. Clinton Foundation, Andrew Kessler, made the admission to investigators from the MDA Analytics, a firm run by accomplished ex-federal criminal investigators who have been probing the Clinton Foundation for some time. Kessler told the MDA that there is no controlling Bill Clinton. It's like Bill Clinton's an animal. He does whatever he wants. He runs up incredible expenses with foundation funds, according to MDA's account of the interview. Bill Clinton mixes and matches personal expenses with that of the foundation. Many people within the foundation have tried to caution him about this, but he does not listen, and there is no really talking to him. NDA compiled Kessler's statements as well as 6,000 pages of evidence from whistleblowers that have been working with separately, which they secretly filed with the FBI and the IRS over a year ago. MDA has alleged that the Clinton Foundation engaged in illegal activities and may owe millions in unpaid taxes and penalties. Now, like I said, they're motivated to think that way, but I'm going to link Uyghur's video if I can find it, because he does an amazing job going through it, and it is damning. It is utterly damning. In addition to the IRS, the firm's partners have contacted the prosecutors in the Maine Justice Department in Washington and the FBI agents in Little Rock, Arkansas. And last week, a federal prosecutor suddenly asked for documents from their private investigation. The memo also claims Kessler confirmed to the private investigators that private lawyers reviewed the foundation's practices, once in 2008 and other in 2011, and each found widespread problems with governance, accounting, and conflicts of interest. No shit. She was Secretary of State. They were taking money from these, theocratic governments or from other governments like Morocco, and they said if you need 7 digits to get a visit from Clinton, either Bill Clinton, Chelsea Clinton, or Hillary, which is mind-blowing. If you remember, Rachel Maddow asked Hillary Clinton if she was going to get rid of or step away from the Clinton Foundation, because even Rachel Maddow, who was clearly in the tank for Hillary Clinton, understood that there was a major conflict of interest with you running this kind of firm here where people have given you money. It's essentially a slush fund. The 48-page submission dated August 11th. Oh, right here. I have addressed before, and let me tell you, I know where all the bodies are buried in this place, the memo alleges Kessler said. Now, later on, when they asked the foundation comes back and said, well, wait. He didn't mean it that way, and he thought he was talking to an old acquaintance. I bet he did. The 48-page submission dated August 11, 2017 supports the claims with 95 exhibits, including internal legal reviews that the foundation conducted on itself in 2008 and 2011. As Solomon noted in January, Little Rock FBI field office has been spearhandling an investigation into pay-for-play schemes and tax code violations, according to the law enforcement officials. The officials who spoke on condition of anonymity said the probe is examining whether the Clinton promised or performed any policy favors in return for largesse or for their charitable efforts, or whether donors made commitments or donations in hopes of securing government outcomes. Well, you only need to get the ear of the person, right? I mean, the moment that you get in the room with the person, you're a hell of a lot ahead of that line. Here's some money, and that person is going to pick up when you call if you give them X number of millions of dollars. I mean, come on, this looks horrendous. Meanwhile, the Clinton Foundation has been under investigation by the IRS since July 2016, according to the January report by the Dallas Observer, after 64 GOP members of Congress reviewed letters urging them to push for an investigation. The investigation is being handled by the Dallas office far away from Washington. There is a probable cause that the Clinton Foundation has run afoul of the IRS regarding their tax schemes. Okay, that's fine. We ran that part. The foundation should be investigated. We ran that part. Mr. Kessler believed that he was in a meeting with an old professional acquaintance who was looking for business from the foundation. The foundation added in a statement. Fair enough. All right, so here's another one. Meanwhile, next week, the GOP Congressional Subcommittee, led by Representative Mark Meadows, will review the work of John Huber, the U.S. Attorney designated a year ago by Attorney General Jeff Sessions to investigate all things Clinton. The hearing will establish how much money the resources Huber has dedicated and whether he can expect to see any recommendations regarding Hillary Clinton's transfer of classified information from her secure server, along with the foundation activities. And to that end, prosecutors working under Huber called MDA Analytics last week and requested copies of the Clinton Foundation evidence, according to Solomon. The prosecutor working for Huber called MDA Analytics last week seeking copies of the evidence, according to the source. The firm told prosecutors that the FBI had possessed the evidence in Little Rock office as early as 2018. Some evidence that the NBA investigators cited as public source, such as internal foundation hacked in 2016 given WikiLeaks. Again, the WikiLeaks stuff is damning. The WikiLeaks stuff is damning. Let's see. All right. And I read this last part. Kessler inadvertent admission, meanwhile, tracks closely with comments made in 2008 written by a private lawyer named Kumiki Gibson, who the Clinton Foundation hired to study its governance. Gibson flagged concerns over improper commingling of charitable and private business. The work of the foundation and the president are intertwined in a way that creates confusion and undermines the work of the foundation at virtually every level, he wrote, warning that such actions pose reputational and legal challenges and with confusion and inefficiencies and waste. Specifically, the memo warned that the foundation had not created policies and procedures required by law, and that some of the leaders appeared to have interests that do not always align with those of the foundation. What do you mean, like Secretary of State? Is that what you mean? Or Bill Clinton? It also raised the possibility of illegal activity, saying that the foundation and the managers held an anti-compliance attitude and that there was a lower-level employee who begged for whistleblower protections after witnessing less than fully compliant behavior, or even worse, are asked to participate in it or condone it. I don't know how much longer their luck can hand out. I have another story. I have two stories dealing with with this. One with Trump wanting an investigation into this stuff, but not being able to get it, and I'm going to explain why. And I was right about that early on when I mentioned that the difficulties associated with him trying to quote unquote lock her up. And another one that's just funny, just utterly entirely funny. So I'll leave this here. I haven't been to bed yet. When real men can't sleep, real men do the news. First, last, thank you for what you do. First, last, thank you for your contribution to the show. I really do appreciate it. Not pay for play is just coincidence. That's what they call it, right? Coincidence. You give me a bunch of money and we do you favors. The favors just so happen to be a coincidence. I love it. It's quinky-dink. Brendan Adams. They'll get what comes to public servants worth $3 billion. Yeah, I know, right? You're working in the public sector and you end up with $3 billion. I hear what Dr. Wolf is saying. I'm glad you do. Dr. Wolf is fucking awesome. All right. I'll end this here because I don't want this one to go too long and it's already 13 minutes. So if you guys dig what I'm putting down and you find yourself coming back here often, please consider supporting the work. Even $1 helps, be it PayPal or Patreon, or for the matter, Super Chats or Streamlabs. Any of those things help. And worst come to worst, please like or share if you like the video. If you don't like it, of course, don't do it. But I'll leave this here. Thanks all. Bye-bye.